I am here with Blake Ruffino. Are You Serious Sports? Blake, thank you for joining me today. Let's jump right into things. Talking LSU football.
Yep.
What's your hottest LSU take for this upcoming season? We'll
Oh,
start with a banger.
let me think. So let me just preface this by saying Brian Kelly has been pretty generous to us for letting us be out, TJ, at practice for the entire practice. We were out there all day Saturday, and then either Saturday before or 2 Saturdays ago. I just think the hottest take is just that they're so much more impressive defensively. What they're doing on the boundary. And TJ, look, so Florida State, and you know this because we talked about it a lot, that game got out of hand because defensively they just could not make a stop,
Yeah.
right? And so when you have a good team like that and you're unable to schematically do things, it really hurts you. And the question became, was it personnel or is it personnel versus is it coaching? And right now, I think that they've done a lot better. I think that LSU does have a lot of really good talent. I think my hottest take, TJ, has got to be this. I think the culture's changed. And I hate using that word. I have banned it from my show, but it's the only way that I can explain what I've seen the last month at spring practice when we're out there the whole time and Blake Baker, the new DC, being out there. I think it's that. But here's a hot take for you. TJ, I don't think enough people are talking about in the country the radios in the helmets. Now, I asked Brian Kelly on Saturday in the post game how big of a deal philosophy it's changed. TJ, when's the last time you've seen a team go in a huddle? Because
Yeah.
you're going to see it this year that most people aren't talking about. I think the hottest take for LSU football is they have gone a little bit more pro style because they're able to huddle. And I think because Jayden Daniels isn't there, the way that they have to run the football. So maybe the college football game that you saw last year does change a little bit more. But my hottest take is I think that their safety room is a lot better. But I don't know if this right now, if you ask me what is the hottest take that I have, I don't know from an LSU football perspective if they're not a better overall team than last year
Yeah.
because of how much better they're going to be defensively. And that's a lot to say because Jayden Daniels was the Heisman Trophy winner. You had Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. That's very tough for me to come out here and say. But it's not just the offensive game. You got to play on both sides of the ball. So I think that would be I don't know yet if they can't be a better overall team because of how much better they're going to be defensively.
So improvement on defense was like you said, yeah, like that kept some other teams in some games that lost LSU some games at times just 'cause defensively they couldn't get stops when they needed late in games down the stretch. Um,
Right.
if they improve defensively and take that step, I'm not trying to get you to call anybody out or be
No, I'll call
negative
them out.
here,
It's all right.
but but how much of a drop off is there going to be from a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and what are your thoughts on where the offense will be?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a drop off. I mean, like, let's not, and TJ, I think that this is anybody who's replacing a quarterback. There's going to be some level of drop off at times. The question becomes is how massive is that drop? So we saw Garrett Nussmeier in the bowl game against Wisconsin, and he looked really good. He was poised. He did throw a pick, but it was just he's trying to make a play. I can live with that. But the biggest thing, and look, I get in these debates with people all the time, NFL draft guys who, by the way, are the absolute worst human beings on the face of the planet. Okay, like they know
They're
nothing
worse than
about.
weathermen. They're worse than like meteorologists.
And look, I have a friend, Josh Eaches. He's a weather guy. He's a meteorologist. I like him more than any NFL guy, NFL draft guy ever. What TJ? And this is what we did with Jayden Daniels. What did you not see last year in the running game with him making plays that you did not love? Oh, he got hit one time big against Ole Miss and he fumbled the football. Okay, so are you taking away the 50-yard gain that he had on the against Ole Miss in that game to put them in a lead and their defense can't make a stop?
Yeah.
TJ, he is, and I swear to God, you can say whatever you want. He legitimately is to me a more polished coming out Lamar Jackson. I fully believe that because I've seen it every single week. And people say, well, what about the Florida State game? Okay, well, let's talk about that. Joe Burrow literally beat Auburn in 2019 by a point. Okay, so like there are games against good teams, which Florida State was a really good team, that you're going to have it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. So the drop off is going to be massive. I don't think in the passing game, 1,000% in the running game, because how do you replace that? TJ against Florida, he had arguably the best run that I've watched LSU football my entire life. I think he had the best run that I've ever seen, maybe ever, against Florida. And then did it again with an 80-yard zone read, which, by the way, TJ, was the fastest LSU player from a miles per hour that we've ever seen, ever. He's a quarterback who still threw for 40 touchdowns. So I look at him and say to myself, passing, I think they'll be fine. Throwing to these dudes at wide receiver, they've had some really good production already this spring. It's just his playmaking ability you cannot take away from him. And so that's why I think LSU is going a little bit more pro style. And TJ, I think they're going to slow it down, which then makes them a better overall team. I don't think that they're going to be in games where it's 45-41 and LSU's defense got to make a stop. Now, maybe they'll get into one of those, but I think that they're going to be slow it down a little bit more and run the football with these really good running backs that they got. I think Caleb Jackson that they have, I said this last year, I'll say it again. He is a baby Fournette. Okay, like this dude will run you over. By the way, TJ in high school, after breaking his leg, he ran a 10-400 meter in high school. Like legitimately was, by the way, he's 235 pounds. So LSU, see what we've done here, and we'll get into this. We look at Brian Kelly and this LSU team, forgetting that they had 30 scholarship players 2 years ago, actually.
Yeah. So
where they've come, I think, is a lot bigger. So it's going to be a regression. I have a lot of faith in Garrett Nussmeier to lead this team. But if you think that there's not going to be a drop off from quarterback play because of what Jayden Daniels did with his legs, you're absolutely insane.
Yeah. But if they can play a little bit more complimentary football, like you're talking about,
100%.
The defense on the field, 14 possessions a game, right? And you know, you may put yourself in a little bit better position to win more games.
Get this. They had less possessions under Jayden Daniels than Garrett Nussmeier. Why? Because they would go down and score, and then their defense would get absolutely obliterated.
Yeah.
Okay, and they would take off. They lost the time of possession every game. They lost it against Florida State. They lost it against Ole Miss. They almost lost it in Missouri, and they almost lost that game.
Yeah.
They lost it to Alabama. TJ, it's amazing to me how the time of possession, every game LSU lost in, besides Army, but every game that they lost the time of possession, they lost the game. Every single one. And it comes down to a point where if you can't make stops on defense, I don't care how good your offense was. I mean, TJ, we're talking about a team in LSU against like Florida State or Alabama. Did you not watch the Alabama game where Jayden Daniels had a 75-yard run and scored, and then he tied it at half? Like, what are we discussing here? I think that you can have close games and say to yourself, okay, well, they're playing a really good defense. By the way, those teams are really good defensively. I think LSU is in a very interesting situation here. And this is the hot take I probably should have. TJ, from what I've seen so far, I think they could be a top 5 defense in the SEC. I don't think that I don't know if it was personnel related, because let me tell you, Will Campbell, the left tackle, might be the best left tackle in the game right now, maybe. He gave up a sack on Saturday against a defensive end that they did not use last year, that the defensive coordinator refused to use against Florida State. By the way, who's the only person who had a pressure against Jordan Travis all game? Okay, so I'm like, what are we doing? I see, talking about Matt House, the former DC, gets me so pissed off. Okay, it's incredible to me that we're here, but I do think that they've got a lot of things fixed. I think Blake Baker has been arguably the biggest hire that Brian Kelly has ever made here.
I asked Blake about Brian Kelly, and we talked about him specifically in a Saban-less SEC. If you want to see that video, click on the screen right now.